Jealousy is a shared task that every one of us needs to work through in this lifetime. If, through our inner practice, we're able to dissolve the jealousy in our hearts, you will enter a brand new, incredibly abundant world. People who feel jealousy often fail to see their own value clearly because this society doesn't want us to recognize our personal value. In fact, it goes out of its way to prevent us from seeing it clearly. This environment classifies and ranks us using numbers, test scores, KPIs, job titles, income levels, all designed to compare us with others. Through comparison, no matter how good you actually are, it is easy to come to mistaken conclusion that you have no value at all. If someone else seems to be receiving more resources or love than we are, this becomes a direct threat to the ego's survival. The ego will then respond with jealousy, either through self-soothing illusions or by mentally attacking the other, wishing to seize more external resources and love. So if you truly wish to be free from jealousy, the first step is not to look outward for a solution, but to turn inward. Begin the most important inquiry of your life. Who am I really? Only when we work through the lesson of jealousy can we start attracting true abundance. How jealousy blocks wealth and eventually leads you to abundance. How to break free from jealousy. This is the task I must face right now. And it is also a lesson for most people. It's just that for the majority, this topic is hard to talk about. Very few people are willing to admit in the public they feel jealous of someone, right? However, jealousy is a shared task that every one of us needs to work through in this lifetime. It is a profound and challenging subject. If, through our inner practice, we're able to dissolve the jealousy in our hearts, then I can say with absolute certainty, you will enter a brand new, incredibly abundant world. And the abundance I speak of here is the unification of inner abundance and outer abundance. People who feel jealousy often fail to see their own value clearly. In other words, as long as we can deeply, completely, and thoroughly understand our personal value, jealousy will naturally dissolve. To understand our own value is to develop a foundational and wavering sense of security. And what could bring us a more genuine, inside-out feeling of abundance than an unshakable belief in our own inherent worth? But how do we come to understand our personal value? This is not an easy thing to do, because this society doesn't want us to recognize our personal value. In fact, it goes out of its way to prevent us from seeing it clearly. It's not that we are born unaware of our value. Rather, we are trained by society over and over again to forget that we have value as individuals. In school, at home, in every corner of society, if you've grown up in an environment of constant correction, scolding, criticism, and denial, then chances are you've lost sight of your intrinsic value. You may even feel like you're bad at everything, that nothing you do is good enough. Every decision you make is filled with self-doubt. You probably experience severe internal friction, which leads to procrastination, constant guilt, and self-blame. Go one step further, and it may turn into depression. In the process of discipline, and reshaping our minds, the external world loves to use one particular tool, comparison. This environment classifies and ranks us using numbers, test scores, KPIs, job titles, income levels, all designed to compare us with others. Through comparison, no matter how good you actually are, it is easy to come to mistaken conclusion that you have no value at all. This kind of data-driven, comparison-based external system is a breeding ground for the ego to grow strong, and at the same time, a brutal battlefield where the true self is gradually silenced. Because the ego operates in duality, it believes all the resources and love are limited. If others have something, it must mean we have less. If you win, I lose. If I have it, you can't. So when the external world forces us humans to compare with one another, the ego's fear, anxiety, and scarcity mindset are instantly activated. Our ego thrives on this low-frequency resonance. It loves feeding on these negative energies. And so our ego starts to direct us obsessively to seek more resources and love from the outside world to feed it and help it grow stronger. If someone else seems to be receiving more resources or love than we are, this becomes a direct threat to the ego's survival. The ego will then respond with jealousy, either through self-soothing illusions or by mentally attacking the other, wishing to seize more external resources and love. It may even curse the other to encounter misfortune, secretly hoping that by their downfall, these resources and love would somehow flow to itself without effort. As long as we're still unconsciously dominated by the ego, it is impossible to break free from jealousy. And it is equally impossible to truly recognize our own value, because the value we've known has been built entirely upon comparison with others. So if you truly wish to be free from jealousy, the first step is not to look outward for a solution, but to turn inward. Begin the most important inquiry of your life. Who am I really? Ask yourself, I am the jealous ego, or am I the one who is experiencing the emotion of jealousy? If I'm the one experiencing the emotion, then who exactly is the one experiencing? Keep asking. As you go deeper, you will begin to see the true self, and at the same time, clearly see the ego. You will begin to realize you are not jealousy itself. You are simply the one experiencing the feeling of jealousy. With that realization, the ego's control over your actions and mind begin to dissolve. Then you can start practicing over and over again, returning to the higher self, or what someone called the source, the oneness, the whole. When you realize that you are part of the source, the difference between you and others fades away, because all of us come from the same origin. Just like every drop of seawater belongs to the vast ocean. I exist in you and you exist in me. In that moment, comparison becomes impossible. We all come from the one. We are each a fractal of the one. Just like the thumb does not jealous of the index finger, would one part of your body ever envy another part? Of course not. When you return to the wholeness, you begin to feel the true value of your experience. And that value is existence itself. It might sound like a paradox, but this is exactly what I mean. When you return to the whole, your existence is one with the whole. The whole experiences this world through your body. So as long as you exist and are consciously experiencing this world, you carry absolute value. This value cannot be determined by how slim, young, old, beautiful, or ugly you are. It is your inherent absolute worth. Your value of experience is more stable than the value of gold, because gold's value depends on its scarcity, portability, and material stability. But if one day humanity could produce gold infinitely, it would quickly lose all its worth. But the value of your existence is incomparable, unquestionable, and absolute. This kind of absolute value is rooted in the simple fact that you exist right now in this moment. It is an unshakable, complete, transcendent faith beyond all else. Faith and confidence are two different concepts. Confidence means that you've seen someone accomplish something before, and so you believe in their ability. But faith doesn't rely on any evidence. No matter what someone has or hasn't done in the past, you believe unconditionally that they can do it. And that's exactly the kind of unconditional faith we must have in our own personal value. Put simply, existence is value itself. So with that in mind, is there even a need to think about what the value of our life is? Not really. There's no need to analyze it anymore, because existence equals value and value equals existence. It is direct, straightforward, with no mental gymnastics. You don't need to prove your value through action. You don't need to compare yourself with anyone in order to come to some conclusion about how valuable you are. Every person has different lessons, different experiences, and different paces of soul evolution. There's simply no basis for comparison. And with that understanding, we can actually thank jealousy for the role it plays. It helps expose the darker corners of our psyche. All of us have these shadow sides, whether we want to admit it or not, myself included. I'm sharing this here to say it's okay to feel jealous. It's totally okay. I get it. It's not easy to being in a state of jealousy. It's a big challenge, a major life task to figure it out. But only when these shadows reveal themselves can we find their opposite light. Just like light is only visible in the darkness, these shadow aspects help us understand our own value, understand others' journeys, understand our relationships with the universe, understand the nature of the ego, and understand the calling of higher self. These are the shadows that guide us toward light. The darker they are, the more clearly they illuminate that light. Once we fully understand that our very existence is our value, we begin to gradually see what truly sparks our interest, what kind of work or expression genuinely calls to us, and as we start doing these things, our soul naturally begins to evolve. We begin walking a path that is truly our own, not the path someone else wants us to take, not the path that appears glamorous or radiant in other people's lives, but a path aligned with the direction our soul longs to grow in. At this stage, it becomes almost impossible impossible to feel jealous of anyone because you now know exactly what you want and you are walking your own road with clarity. The wealth, status, or happiness that others acquire no longer provokes comparison. At most, you might feel a sincere blessing in your heart. I truly hope she or he gets what they long for. But then again, as Jim Carrey once brilliantly said, I hope everybody could get rich and famous and will have everything they ever dreamed of, so they will know that it is not the answer. After all, this jealousy of life is incredibly precious. It is a rare opportunity for a continued soul cultivation, one that we have earned after countless centuries of evolution and effort. The lesson we each must face in this lifetime are already rich and complex enough. Why would we need even a shred of desire to envy someone else's path? If you still find yourself feeling jealous, it only means this: you haven't yet clearly seen the path that truly belongs to you. But one day, when you finally step onto the path of your true self, you will discover something extraordinary. This path is one that only you can walk. Even if you receive support or companionship along the way through a spouse, family members, team members, followers, or investors, they are merely your mirrors, helping you see yourself more clearly. Ultimately, it is you alone who must carve out this unique road, step by step, from the inside out. One powerful practice that helps is consistent gratitude. Be grateful for everything you already have. Be grateful for the people who have supported you and for those who've brought you challenges. Thank you is a phrase you can quietly repeat to yourself whenever you feel jealousy rising up. When you let that stream of gratitude flow through your body, jealousy melts away in an instant, and you return to that whole, abundant, infinitely loving source. Gratitude is not something to practice only once in a while. It's best done every morning when you wake up for 5 minutes, again before you sleep, and anytime negative emotions arise during the day. Gratitude, when practiced regularly, will always guide you home. In addition, instead of criticizing ourselves for always feeling jealous of others, it's far more valuable to ask, why am I feeling jealous? What unmet desire or sense of lack lies behind that jealousy? For example, if someone feels jealous of their older brother, maybe it's not really about the brother himself. Maybe it's because they feel like they receive less love from their parents. What they truly desire is more love, or at least the same amount of love their brother received. If they can't get that love directly from their parents, they might try to cope by stop talking to their brother or even bullying their brother, trying to achieve some kind of emotional balance. But in reality, that doesn't bring them any more love. Once we see the real desire behind our jealousy, we can shift our focus toward nurturing that desire instead of hoping others will lose what they have so we feel equal. Because someone else lose won't make us feel any more whole. Our psychological wounds won't be healed that way. In fact, they will only drain more of our energy consumed by the recurring emotion of jealousy. Let's return to the same example. If someone wants more love, instead of asking others, like their parents, to give them more love, a better path is to learn how to love themselves. That means taking the time and effort to care for themselves, such as learning self-care practices like healthy eating and tending to their own needs. It also means getting into the habit of vividly imagining their present-day self, embracing that younger, wounded version of themselves, holding the younger self close, comforting them, and gently cheering them on with love and tenderness. Another important practice is to consistently connect with the universe, the infinite and inexhaustible source of love and abundance. When you do this, you become an infinite engine of love, generating love from within instead of needing it to be given to you from others. Then, when someone else receives love, you no longer feel jealous because you already have access to infinite love. Love is, by nature, boundless. It can never run out. At that point, you will even find yourself radiating that love outward, giving freely to those around you, even to the people who you once felt jealous of. I've realized that most jealousy stems from a childhood experience of lacking love, a deep need for more love, and the feeling of not having received enough. This is one of the primary roots of scarcity. And as long as a sense of lack exists, our energetic frequency will stay low, stuck in a vibration that can't connect with abundance. Abundance vibrates at a high frequency. You might manage to get some things you crave, maybe a bit of material wealth, by striving from a place of jealousy and lack. But that energy, that low vibration, simply cannot align with high frequency wealth. Only when we work through the lesson of jealousy can we start attracting true abundance. I can say this with certainty. When you learn to face your feelings of jealousy and ask yourself why you feel jealous, and more importantly, what deep soul level desire might be hiding behind that jealousy, you begin to truly accept this emotion instead of constantly criticizing yourself and wondering why you are still feel jealous of others. You will start to discover that what you truly long for is not to become the person you were jealous of, but rather to have something that person possesses, something you haven't yet attained but deeply long for. That often means you haven't yet stepped onto the right path in your own life. At that point, you may realize that jealousy is actually a signal, a prompt to reflect on whether the path you are currently walking is truly aligned with the direction your heart and soul want to go. If the answer is no, then what exactly is the difference between where you are now and where you wish to be? And more importantly, can you find the courage to finally walk the path that your heart has always known it wants to follow? It's important to note that this does not mean blindly copying the person you're jealous of or doing what they do just because you envy them. Rather, the feeling of jealousy is simply reflecting your own inner longing, a path you've always wanted to take but have delayed, whether due to external pressures or deeply ingrained habits. Seen from this perspective, jealousy becomes a moment of truth. It is a chance to reconnect with your soul's inner voice, to reassess the direction of your life, and to make a genuine shift. If you can learn to view your jealousy through this lens, with kindness, acceptance, and the willingness to listen, you will find that jealousy itself becomes a gift. It becomes the very turning point that leads you back to your true path and the beginning of the abundance you were always meant to receive. You may ask, how do we know if we truly transcended the deep life lesson of jealousy? One clear sign is when you witness someone else's success, happiness, or abundance, and if a surge of jealousy arises within you, you are able to notice it, accept it fully without judgment or suppression, and gently remind yourself to return to your true self, the self that is connected to the infinite source of love and abundance. In that moment, you begin to see that you and the person you are jealous of are not separate. You are both part of the same source. Their joy is your joy. Their experience is your experience. And from this place of unity, you genuinely begin to feel happy for them, not as a forced response, but from a place of deep within your heart. At the same time, your attention shifts back to your own life journey. You recognize that jealousy has shown up not to shame you, but to guide you, to nudge you toward the path that truly aligns with your soul's desire. With that awareness, you find the courage to make adjustment, to move in the direction that feels more authentic to who you truly are. And as you do, you begin to feel gratitude, real embodied gratitude for the gift of being alive and for the opportunity to experience life in your own unique way. In that space, you realize that jealousy has quietly melted away. What remains is full acceptance of yourself, the courage to walk your own path, and a deep, unconditional love for both yourself and others.